Hello, it's Scott Manley here with episode 47 of the Interstellar Quest, and Jebediah Kerbin is making a rare appearance, mostly because I forgot to take him out of the spacecraft, but nevertheless, he is the best person for this job. He is going to take an experimental plasma thruster powered spacecraft, Rendezvous, with a space probe, which will be streaking through the Kerbin system at about 7 kilometers per second, 50,000 kilometers below the Kerbal South Pole. He will pluck it from space, retrofit it with a heat shield and parachute, and return the whole thing safely to the planet Kerbin so that we will bask in the new science that it delivers. So that's us setting up our initial orbit. What this is going to do is more or less put us in roughly the right location when the spacecraft arrives in a couple of days. Then we're going to have to actually rendezvous, and the rendezvous will take 7 kilometers per second to reach it, and then it'll take another 7 to slow down, and we'll hopefully have some left over to actually trim into an orbit which doesn't kill us. The spacecraft is fitted with about 40 days worth of fuel, so hopefully, even if we do run out of fuel, we'll be able to send a rescue mission, but hopefully that won't actually happen. It gets its huge amounts of delta V, its huge amounts of range, largely because it's using one of these plasma thrusters. Plasma thrusters are very efficient. They're more efficient than the ion engines, incidentally. If you don't know, incidentally, the difference between an ion engine and a plasma engine is that an ion engine is using ions, and what that means is you take your fuel, you ionize it, you basically strip the electrons off and you put them somewhere else. Then you accelerate the ions, which will be positively charged, through an electric field. And then once they emerge on the other side, then you shoot electrons at it, so you neutralize them so they don't want to come back. So what you're doing is you're accelerating ions. With a plasma engine, you're generally creating a plasma which is a mixture of positive ions and negative electrons, and that is accelerated together. And the obvious example, I guess, of a plasma engine is the Vasimir, which is the variable specific impulse plasma rocket, which is in development. And the idea is that this thing can either operate in high efficiency, high specific impulse mode, or it can operate at high thrust but lower specific impulse. Either way, the idea is you can adjust the efficiency depending upon when you need the thrust or not. Anyway, right now you see me working in target mode to just try and rendezvous with this spacecraft. I'm more or less trying to kill the velocity using the nav ball, and this took a whole lot of time. Even though I have like 1g of acceleration, 1g of acceleration is still going to take 10 minutes to actually get up to velocity, and then of course we have to rendezvous, things like that. It took quite a lot of effort here, but you're seeing all this at 4 times regular speed, of course, because that seems to be the sweet spot for actually understanding what the hell is going on. Now, ideally I want to do the rendezvous while we're still inside Kerbin's sphere of influence. Then we're getting a little bit of help from its gravity to slow us down, and also it means that if we do end up running out of fuel, then we'll hopefully have a little more time. If we end up flying away, then it just makes everything a whole lot harder. You see, I've dropped the velocity down to 4 kilometers per second. Kill the thrust now, and then let myself approach a little more here. So now I'm only approaching it at about 4 kilometers per second, and I'm making an adjustment to more or less keep the velocity vectors together so that we approach it at as directly as possible. Now, yeah, the Vasimir system, I was talking about it, is it's a plasma engine. What it does, right, is it injects neutral gas into essentially an area where you are creating a plasma. And you create a plasma by heating it up, by bombarding it with microwaves, more or less. There's a kind of beautiful part of this is because the walls of this chamber are actually protected by the magnet. And because you're heating it up with microwaves, it means you're not having electrodes. And electrodes are used in ion engines for the acceleration and for the ionization, and that means the electrodes will actually erode over time. If you can heat things up using just microwaves and electromagnetic fields, it means that you're not having anything that will wear down due to being bombarded, or at least you reduce it as much as possible. So anyway, once you've ionized it, it goes into another chamber, which is again a magnetic bottle kind of area, and they basically heat it up using these using resonant magnetic fields. You know, you're oscillating the magnetic field so they absorb the heat, and it's essentially like heating up the plasma by bombarding it with magnetic fields. And whoa, I totally didn't realize I flew right by that thing. I totally forgot when I was editing this. Yeah, that was not intended to be that close. Anyway, it's time to go back to old me. Whew, I am so glad I did not destroy that thing. That would have been really embarrassing. So here we have Jebediah Kerbin. We've killed our velocity relative to the spacecraft, and since I almost smashed into it, I'm going to send Jebediah out to actually collect the science just in case I mess it up one more time. So quick zip in here, 4 times regular speed, and back to normal. Okay, Jebediah, find those instruments. You have to collect all the science you can. Oh, there's the giant, from that giant antenna especially. You know what that is all about. That's all about collecting information about magnetic fields. Oh, crap, you've knocked it. You've made it spin. Well done, Jebediah. Well done. Or maybe you're just making it spin because it's much more fun to rendezvous with an object that's spinning. Why is this thing not wanting to give me the information? Okay, let's just try grabbing stuff from the other things. Grab it from there, take the data from the Gravimax. Seismic's not going to work very good. Pressure barometer. Oh, there it is. Take data. Awesome, got that data. Is there anything else? I think I transmitted the data from the... I transmitted the data out from this thing, so it's not going to help me particularly. Yeah, nothing here, nothing in that. This, if you remember, this was the first mission where I did the science after 0.23 was released, so these instruments were no longer reusable, and I lamented the fact that I was not able to grab nearly as much science as I wanted. Well, never mind, Jebediah, head back home. We're going to actually try and grab this thing now. Will be but a short jaunt here. I can see my house from here. Jebediah, you have superpowers. Okay, quick return there because you don't need to see the whole thing. And now we're going to try this rendezvous. So we have a claw or a hook device. The idea is you have to bump it into the target at sufficient velocity that it attaches, but not so fast that you smash it. And unfortunately, I don't have instrumentation to help me, so I'm totally going to be guesstimating where this should be. And I'm in the wrong way. No, up, no. Oh, hey, I caught it. Wow, totally did not expect that. Excellent, I have actually managed to capture this satellite. So, yes, let's start the retrofitting process. So that big cylindrical object is an inflatable heat shield. The idea is that I should be able to decouple that, and then the spacecraft will fall down, and I'm just going to fit this parachute to it. Grab it, and now very gently I have to move across this gap here. No, attach. I'm not close enough to attach it. That would have been nice. If now I'm going to have to actually fly. Okay, just be careful. This thing will alter your center of mass. Nope. You're not spinning. You're spinning around. Okay. Don't spin into the panels here. These are the radiator panels. They're very important when you're flying in, when you're running with beamed power. This thing, oh my god, I'm totally going the wrong way. Jebediah! Face towards the target. Okay. So I think what I have to do is only turn on. I'm going to turn off this and only use it when I'm facing the right direction. Okay. They're still moving away from the target. Come on, Jebediah. You've flown more complicated things than a spacesuit before. Well, a spacesuit with a giant parachute before. There. Now you're going the right way. That's my man. Bring it in there. You just need to attach it to the side of this spacecraft so that it will be able to soft land. Then it's just a case of getting it through the atmosphere. Okay. So once again, turning it off and then waiting for the spacesuit to rotate in the right direction so I get some... Whoa, he's really spinning here. This is not what I wanted to do. Okay. Let's just wait. When we get close enough, we're going to attach it. Close enough. Come on. Yes! Zip! Brilliant! Look at the way Jebediah... He was able to screw that thing on there while he was rotating and spinning around. You see, Jebediah, not only a genius pilot, but a brilliant mechanic. And once again, it's back to time acceleration so that we can actually start the descent, start the return. So, we want to kill the velocity here. 8.2 kilometers per second. Boy, this is going to be fun. Yeah, good thing is I can point this in the right direction. And I'm decelerating this whole thing at about 5G, which is great because it means we'll hopefully be able to get this thing down before we leave the sphere of influence. Sphere of influence is about 80,000 kilometers. If we had left it before then, we would be in some sort of trouble. So we're down to 3 kilometers per second. Excellent. Really starting to... well, actually, we're starting to run out of fuel here. Liquid fuel, 16, and not only that, but we're overheating our engines right now, we're overheating everything. Plasma, fuel burning, and we're getting very close. We're at 4, 3, 2, 1. No, we've run out of fuel. We have 1,500 meters per second. We're going to fly into deep space. Okay, we can switch to the monopropellant, which we don't need anymore because we've done Rendezvous. Burn the monopropellant. We don't really burn it, but we use it in the plasma thruster. And how are we doing? 800 meters per second. Just unfortunately, we have overheated the engines again. Let's wait for them to cool down. Quick. 4 times. Cool things down just enough. We don't want to be leaving the sphere of influence. Not with Jebediah in tow. And there we go. Burning that fuel or firing up that engine once more. 700 meters, 600 meters per second. Come on. We want to slow down to nothing. 12, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And oh no! The bad news is we are out of monopropellant, but the good news is we are in a stable orbit. The even better news is we actually have a spacecraft with fuel in it. So let's unhook this thing from its hook, disable the hook support, so that we can maneuver it into position. Unfortunately, it turned out that for some reason the heat shield that I was going to attach has come off, and the hook has remained attached to my spacecraft. I'm not sure what I did wrong. Actually, I suspect I selected the wrong thing. Regardless, Plan B is going to have to go into effect. Well, Plan B was already going into effect. We're going to try and push the spacecraft back to the planet Kerbin using the engines off the space probe. It actually has a decent amount of fuel here, and it has a pretty efficient engine. So there's a good chance we can slow this thing enough to bring it back down. We only need a couple of 100 meters per second. We were so close. I mean, given the amount of delta V we originally had, 200 meters per second more was not that much to ask. Unfortunately, I was a little aggressive in my rendezvous. Anyway, the spacecraft... Well, okay, if I was going to push this around, ideally I'd want to ditch as much mass as possible. Unfortunately, I realised that the capsule is only coupled to the rest of the spacecraft using a heat shield. So the heat shield is acting as a decoupler, which means that if I want to lose any weight, I have to lose my heat shield and my life support. My life support in the capsule alone is only like 1 day, which makes it hard to fall from this kind of altitude, basically. So yeah, I figured I'd start pushing the whole lot. Rather tediously, I'm only running at about 1/5 power. There I'm 67 units of liquid fuel and slowly counting down. But actually, at this rate, I think I should be able to do it. The only thing is that my the spacecraft isn't quite aligned exactly the way we would like it, so I might have to make some correction before then. The beamed power system is still receiving, God knows why, because it has no interest in There's nothing that it could use. I guess it'll keep him warm at best. And there we go. This thing's coming down. We have one panel out as well. So, there we go. Unfortunately, decoupling that doesn't work. So, regardless, we adjust this to point it in the correct direction, do some sort of maneuvering to put it in the right place, and once again, burn a little more, hoping to bring the altitude down to below about 30 kilometers so that it can, in fact, get captured. You know, if our capture profile is not aggressive enough, Jebediah will probably run out of life support. But we're able to get it deep inside the atmosphere. Yay! And so Jebediah is going to fall back to the surface, and this will have its own route to go. The space probe I've going to set off on a slightly different orbit. I want to raise its periaps. The idea being that it will go in at a slightly different angle and be a little less aggressive. So yeah, what I want this to do is to slow down over a couple of passes. It doesn't have a heat shield, but I'm keeping it pretty high up in the atmosphere, so the amount of force that it's experiencing is pretty low. You see 45 kilometers, so it's going to go around and perhaps on the next landing. Now, to actually slow down from orbital velocity and cross that deadly re-entry threshold, it's going to use the engines. Anyway, the spacecraft, which is carrying Jebediah, is now completely without propulsion, but it is not without control, and Jebediah is, of course, going to keep it pointed the right way so that it slows down sufficiently into the atmosphere. Maybe he'll get captured on this return, but this is a denser spacecraft. You know, that engine and stuff. The engine weighs quite a lot compared to, say, the relatively empty fuel tanks of that space probe. So he passes through the atmosphere and flies out, departing at about, 2,500 meters per second, 2,400. So he's going to fly around, and then is going to have another encounter. And, of course, we skim around for one more encounter. Now, we're trying very carefully to keep the parachutes oriented away from the direction of travel. Obviously, we originally thought I would have some fuel left, and I would just do a lot of braking here. But apparently, I totally miscalculated. So the spacecraft is having to aerobrake through the atmosphere, and ideally, what we want to do is keep those parachutes out of the superheated airstream. There's 2 parachutes. Hopefully one of them will survive. Just trying to hold it very straight here. Keeping my nose down slightly. Oh, no, I'm losing it. Eject, eject, eject. Now turn it around, get that out of the air. Yes. Oh, you see the temperature in that parachute rising? Both parachutes had their temperature going up, but we managed to detach, and the lower mass of this was able to, skim through the atmosphere and decelerate in a different way. And yes, Jebediah is going to survive, because Jebediah always survives. He is a pro. We're going to arm our parachutes, descend through into the ocean below, spinning around for fun, obviously. I'm not sure what happened to Ferrum Aerospace, but it seems that all my spacecraft just spin around like crazy things when falling under parachutes that are attached radially. Not that it's really a problem. Jebediah, of course, loves that, and he's probably, doing something fun to take advantage of. I don't know, what do you do when you've got spinny things going on? Ooh, he's probably playing cards with the cards plastered to the walls of the spacecraft, just held there by gravity. And there we go, successful return for Jebediah Kerbin. Who would have expected anything less? Not me. I'm not one of those doubting Jebediah Telmuses type of people. Anyway, the spacecraft is coming back for its second pass. Now, the idea is that it's going to slow down through the atmosphere, right? But what'll happen is it'll start to really fall quickly. And before it hits the really thick part of the atmosphere at high speeds and potentially burns up, that's when we're going to fire the remaining engines and slow the speed down to that of a high-speed jet. And there we go, look. Burning all the fuel, 1,500, 1,400, This thing's accelerating at about 4G through using that engine. And that's a pretty efficient engine. 35 kilometers up. If we were going at 2 kilometers per second, we'd be seeing re-entry heating. But because we are killing the velocity with this rocket, we're not going to see much in the way of re-entry heating at all. In fact, we're still slowing down and nothing is affecting us. Yay! So the spacecraft has made it through the atmosphere with the help of a little bit of deceleration. Now it's just a question of preparing for landing after this historic mission. This will be the first spacecraft to have returned from the vicinity of the Sun. It will bring back with it a bounty of science, which will no doubt help us advance higher and higher on the Kerbal tech tree, bringing us closer to new technologies that will allow us to throw ourselves across the solar system faster than ever before. But of course, that will be in future episodes. Until then, I'm Scott Manley. Fly safe.